I'm Enrique Latois, and this video is brought to you by Commentary Creations, your 3-minute lawyer. So I'm going to tell you, this is going to be the first of many videos covering DUI. This is basically just an overview, but actually we're going to have several videos breaking up each individual topic, talking about the arrest, what takes place when people are pulled over. Then we're going to do a video talking about the different tiers and what that means. We're going to talk about defending a DUI, what happens when you go to court, and we're going to talk about the penalty phase and the possible things that get expunged. So we look at this video, it's just an overall video, but we're going to actually cover these things in depth a lot more. So today we're going to talk about DUI, driving under the influence. It's what it's called in Pennsylvania. Some states call it DWI, driving while intoxicated. I'm wearing my St. Patty's green here. Unfortunately, this time of year, a lot of people get charged with DUI. They call it twice in law, and they say, hey, I got charged, where do we go from here? Most likely, if you're watching this video, it's not because you haven't been charged, it's probably because you have been charged. We've all seen enough billboards and advertisements that say don't drink and drive. So now what happens? You got stopped, you got charged, where do we go from here? So the first thing I'm going to tell you about Pennsylvania is a driving under the influence stacked tier penalty. Now what does that mean? So Pennsylvania looks at 10 years, and they say, well, how many DUIs has the person had in 10 years? They've never been charged with a DUI. Is this the first, second, or third? They also look at things called blood alcohol levels. So in Pennsylvania, anything that is 0.08 is that is the illegal limit to be driving, all the way up to 0.10. That is first tier. Anything from 0.10 to 0.15 is second tier, and anything from 0.16 and above is third tier. Now, Pennsylvania also deals with under the influence of drugs or a combination of drugs and alcohol, and if a person does that, it's automatically third tier. So let's talk about what happens when a person gets pulled over and accused of DUI. Typically what happens is the officer gets the driver out of the car, they have you do the standard field sobriety test, and basically what takes place is they have people do a thing where you follow the pen, do different things, do a walking turn, have people stand on the leg, and do all these other tests. After that, if the officer has said this person has failed the test and they're under the influence, then it moves on to the second part, which is now you get compelled underneath the law to either give blood or go and do a breathalyzer at a machine. It's usually a stationary machine, actually, in Pennsylvania. Okay, so what happens is at that point, at some point, they get the results. If it's a stationary breathalyzer machine, you get the results right then and there, and you kind of know exactly what tier you are. Even maybe you're below all the tiers, you're not DUI at all. Or if you get taken to the hospital and you give blood, it usually comes back within a month or two, and the officer usually wait on that paperwork, and then they will mail that out to the person in Pennsylvania and let them know they've been charged. So some people watching this video say, I got stopped, I did this test, I gave blood, what the hell is going on? Well, at this point, the officer might just be waiting on that blood results to come back to determine whether or not you're DUI at all. You may not be, or if you are, what level you are. So now something's come in the mail, it tells you exactly what the blood alcohol is. Sometimes they don't tell you till you get to court, and now what takes place. So because Pennsylvania's a tier state, you have tier 1, you have tier 2, you have tier 3. Basically the penalties or the different things that can happen to a person accused of DUI is based on that. So let's talk about the first tier. If you're 0.08 to 0.10 has a maximum penalty of 6 months probation. If you're tier 2, it has a mandatory minimum of 48 hours in prison. And if you're tier 3, it has a mandatory minimum of 3 days in prison. Now, an experienced attorney like myself, there are other things that can take place, sometimes just house arrest and avoid jail all the way. But it depends on a lot of things. It depends on whether or not it's the first time you've been in trouble. It depends on whether or not it's the first time you ever had a DUI. Because, I'll give you an example. If this is the third time that you've been in trouble for a DUI and it's the third tier, well, you're looking at a mandatory minimum of 1 year in state prison and a felony of the third degree. So as you can see, the first offense would have been 72 hours in jail and an ungraded misdemeanor. The third time it occurs, you're looking at 1 year in state prison and a felony offense. So as you can see in Pennsylvania, DUI stack. Now, There is something in the DUI statute, and there's different things that Pennsylvania offers, is something called ARD. ARD is Accelerated Rehabilitative Disposition Program. Now, if you're a person never been in trouble, good for you. You've never had a problem, and listen, you went out and you had a little too much to drink, and now you find yourself charged with DUI. Now, didn't have a minor in the car, didn't run from the police, you had insurance, you had a driver's license, but yet you got this DUI, you could qualify for that program. The thing about ARD is just because you may qualify or you believe you qualify for it doesn't mean you automatically get it. At the end of the day, the district attorney's office has the sole discretion on whether or not to offer ARD to a person who may qualify for it. The last thing I'm going to leave you with is this. People often say, hey, I can't lose my license. You know, I have a good job, or I drive the kids back and forth to school, or I have all these things going on. Unfortunately, in Pennsylvania, the law for DUI does not care about your personal circumstances or how bad you need your car, or even if you drive for work. The good thing about ARD is instead of losing your license for 1 year, you'd only lose your license for 2 months. And so different things occur. As people get DUIs, there's different things, interlock. You have to blow into, it's called blow and go is what they call it. And I will tell you, this is not legal advice for DUI. And the reason why I tell you that is because the laws for DUIs change all the time. I mean, Pennsylvania just enacted new laws called the Deana's Law, which was unfortunately a mother that was killed from a drunk driver, and has increased the penalties for a third DUI. That was different just a couple of years ago. So I will tell you, at the end of the day, you talk to a professional who knows what they're doing, and most importantly, knows the most updated laws on DUI. So once again, if you're here, you probably got arrested for DUI, and you're probably trying to figure out what goes on. And I will tell you, as you find out the blood alcohol or the actual level from the breathalyzer and all those things, a lot more will come into play to figuring out exactly what you're looking at. At the end of the day, you're innocent to proven guilty, and the Commonwealth still must prove that you were driving under the influence. So stay tuned to a more in-depth video. On the first part, we're going to talk about what takes place when a person's pulled over and the different tests that take place. Rick Toyson, your 3-Minute Lawyer. Thank you.